I just connected this nice beautiful video together. So what I'll show you right now is that you understand that we're just going to continue. And now I can nicely do this nice beautiful video in segments. And you have to understand that it's really, now I taught you about the FXP KG and also the view counts and the SXP that I have. And now I realize it seems like a stock market or something like that, and CXP, and it says CXP and GXP and MXP and TXP, and I mean, it seems like the stock market exchange kind of thing going, although it's nice and a beautiful schedule once you understand it. And you have to understand the information behind it. It's something amazing with the numbers. So you will never understand the numbers unless I show you. You will never understand these numbers if I do not show you. I promise you, if I show you the information behind these numbers, although if I never show you the numbers with that, you'll never understand the numbers. You have to understand the numbers can only be understood once you explain the numbers with information by showing the numbers first with the information. I promise you, many people in terms of financial literacy, in terms of Robert Kiyosaki, for example, and also Tony Robbins, are people also in terms of they, in terms of life, are teaching finance and all this, although they're not showing you numbers. I promise you also, Grant Cardone is not showing you these numbers. I promise you that Grant Cardone comes very close to these numbers in a different way, although my numbers are far greater. You have to understand that it's something to do with you being able to teach people. You have to teach people finance through literacy, and to do that, you don't teach them about the history of finance. Although you still do with information. Although to learn financial literacy completely, you need to teach people how to do their own numbers, and not about the global economy numbers and what they're doing. I don't care about what they're doing. I care about how do I get myself to $1.3 billion without caring about other people. You understand? And now I sound stupid, although I'm not stupid. You have to understand, I'm not stupid, and I don't even sound stupid. You have to understand that the real deal here is I care to grow everybody. I just don't care about others. I just care to grow, and that's how I live life. You have to understand that when you care to grow, you grow everybody. And that's the whole point. I realize that now. I realize that many people are going out and teaching a massive amount of financial literacy without showing you these numbers. And now, you have to understand that these numbers, they're not showing their own numbers in a spreadsheet to show you and teach you about their numbers. Roshi, that's different. Roshi, I'm the first ever to do this. Roshi, I'm the first ever, and there's nobody else that's done that in terms of this in life. Roshi, nobody else is teaching you this. So you have to understand that this is something unique, and you have to understand that the numbers will always ring a bell and will show you and guide you, as I already have with those numbers that you've seen already. You now have to level that. You see how I can straight away go into your mindset, and I can say you have to level those 3 numbers. You see how I can just pinpoint right away your numbers, because now I realize now your numbers are your goals. You have to understand your numbers are those goals. I can talk directly to your numbers in terms of with you. You have the numbers. I can talk exactly straight into your mindset about those numbers now. And now we're going to add different numbers, because I taught you 3 numbers. And I taught you also the 1.3 billion. And I taught you another aspect of life. I taught you many aspects of life right now, although we're going to go and learn more. You have to understand that now the whole point is you're going to find this maximum investment. So I have a nice beautiful category here that says maximum invested into ads. You can see it over here. And now I usually do the icon over here. I will do that also, although you understand that, for example, when you're teaching, you just go and do your work. You have to understand that the whole point over here is the maximum invested into ads. This is the amount I will give in my lifetime into Instagram ads. You have to understand that it's $26 million. I will give the total amount to make sure that everybody in life will come see me. You have to understand that when I give $26 million so that you can come see my content for free, I'll make this back. I'll make the $26 million back and more. You have to understand I realize that is why my numbers in terms of my Instagram numbers, which is my maximum invested in terms of what I gave into, or what I gave into Instagram over time, is my goal here. So this goal changes. You have to understand that these goals change, and I can add these numbers to be even more over time. Whereas that is the goal, to give $26 million over 72 years. I mean, that's it. I mean, that's just my goal, and it's my spreadsheet. And you have to understand that it's just a goal I work toward. You have to understand, if you don't set goals, and if you don't set numbers, and you don't have a $1.3 billion inside of your financial calculator now to say you're working toward that, I mean, you're not going to be successful. You understand? I mean, you're not going to be as successful in your finances. So realize this. I realize that now. You have over here followers. You see followers over here? I have 12 million followers over here. I realize that now. In my followers list, I realize that my goal over 72 years is to have 12 million followers. I realize that you'll say, why is it so small? I realize that now you have to understand that these numbers change over time. I realize that nothing stays stagnant in terms of still with me. I realize that these numbers in terms of 1.3 million, in terms of 1.3 billion and SXP is going to change over time. And so is the view counts. You have to understand. And so is the FXP KG. And everything's changing over time. I realize that numbers do not stay the same. I realize that if you put your numbers to stay the same, I realize that at 28 currently, I have 28 years of age. I realize these are my goals. Although when I go into more age, and I never go older, I go younger, you have to understand, I really am changing these numbers over time. I'll make more savings. I'll make more view counts. I'll make more FXP KG savings. So I'll save more in fats. I'll save more in maximum investing in terms of ads. I'll also save more in followers. I have more to save. So when I save more, I realize I also gain more. You have to understand. You have to understand that when you save more, you'll gain more. I see to save more is to gain more. You have to understand that what I mean is when you're investing your money, you have to understand to make goals and go and be appropriate with your numbers and then change them over time. Realize that obviously I need a bigger number than this. I need bigger numbers than followers in terms of the 12 million. So what I do is I teach you finance and how I finance, and then I learn about how I finance. Now, that is the key entrepreneurship into a billionaire that can help you to succeed. So you see my goals over here. You see my goals? I mean, how big are those goals? I mean, at first you were saying, oh, I mean, what is that? I mean, what is that? I mean, what are these numbers and why is it so small? I realize that these numbers are so small, although I have to make them bigger. I have to grow my numbers over time. You have to understand that at first you look at them, you say 12 million followers. I mean, do you have 12 million followers? You have to set goals. You have to set goals. I mean, have you ever planned have you ever planned to put $26 million into Instagram ads or into advertising? I mean, if you haven't done that, I mean, I'm already ahead of you. I've got goals. I mean, have you saved 106 million in terms of fats over time? I mean, do you have a goal to save that much? I mean, if you don't have goals to save that much in fat, because the more fat you eat, I realize that it's very bad for your health. I don't care what it is. Although I do care overall. I realize that it's more that if you eat fats in terms of food, you are going to die. So I plan to save this much. I plan to stay away from certain foods so that I can achieve my goal. And currently I'm achieving it. I just have to stick to my disciplines. And now with view counts, I realize that if you don't have goals to set your view counts to be this much, I mean, what makes you so successful and why would I listen to you? I mean, if you have not saved already this amount in terms of $1 billion in SXP, I mean, what makes you successful then? I mean, you have to go and make your own conscious investor and go and put your own numbers and go and reach my SXP. I realize that once you overcome this number over here in SXP, you're going to be in a better decision-making track than me currently. I don't know how long that's going to take you, although you have to understand that this financial calculator I started 3 years ago. And I've been doing it for 3 years. I've been doing this for 3 years, and that's another number I can put here. So what I do is I put it into expense. I'll go 3 years. I'll put $3 for 3 years, and then I make a note. I'll say I saved in my financial calculator. You get that? I say that because I gave you a number and I've worded it, and that's that. I saved that much because you can see that. You can understand that I've been doing this for 3 years, and now I lodge it in. I lodge it into 3 years because it's a number, and I lodge all my numbers now. And once I understand that I just lodged that number, I saved 3 years somewhere in another fashion. I saved 3 years of time, so I have 3 years of time freedom in that. You understand? Because I saved 3 years. Because when you're doing your financial calculator like this, and you save 3 years of time by doing something, you understand that the more you do financial calculator, I realize the more time freedom you have. So that's why I put it into time freedom. You understand now that, for example, I just taught you something else, although we're going to go downhill into a better way. And now you have to understand that we're going into images upload. Realize that these are the amounts of images I will upload online. I realize at the moment I have $7.8 million. I realize I have $7.8 million, and also I have 7.8 in terms of I have 7.8 million uploads of images online. I realize just about my life. I realize now, if you don't have those goals, I realize what makes you so big. I mean, why are you going to be more successful when you don't even have a financial calculator? I do have a financial calculator, and guess what? You need to also have one. So these are just my goals, and that images upload is going to change. I realize it's going to change. I realize it's going to change over time. So why is it so? In terms of why do I have to place that much images online? I have to put content up. I have to put content up online of myself, and also to teach you something. You understand? So I realize that 1 million of those quotes, I realize I have 1 million images just coming up in quotes. So what I do here, I realize I do have that much, and I understand to just go write it down anyway. So what I do is, I have 1 million in quotes. I'll find somewhere to put it in. And it's really that I go over here. I realize I put it in, I can put it here. I can have a look over here. I have quotes over here. I realize I'm just looking in terms of where to upload. So I have images upload. I have nice, beautiful 1 million quotes in images upload because it's all images. And you see that goal right there? I just set a goal to make another $1 million. So I'll go over here. I realize it's funny, but it's honest. You watch this now. You go over here. I'll say, I must upload in images. I must upload in images over 72 years. I'm always living over 100. I'm always living over 100 years of age. So realize, I must upload images, or I must upload in images over 72 years. I realize that gives me a nice, beautiful setting. So I realize that you see now the example. You can see now that my goals changed. I mean, my whole financial calculator is set now to make sure that I have more money, and I have a new goal. I have a new goal. I have new money now, which is I have a new expense column, and also I have a new images upload goal and new money roll. I just made $1 million, and also I set my goals to be higher, because you understand how realistic that is. You have to understand how realistic that is, that I can upload 1 million photos of quotes up online more. You understand? Because I believe in myself. I believe in myself to do that. So when I believe in myself, I will go and achieve $1.3 million in terms of $1.3 billion, because I believe in myself to do it. And I realize that this whole financial calculator helps me do that. You can see how my numbers are going. So I just made another 1 million in terms of images upload to teach you something, and you can see how my numbers are changing over time. So that's what I do over time when you're not looking. I'm just inputting something into these numbers over here, and it makes up one number, which is the expense column, and then I just work toward it. You have to understand that you understand how finances is going to help you. So realize that all you really understand right now is the images upload and anything above. You have to understand that now we're going down. So you understand all this. I realize that you don't even know what all this is. You don't even know. You understand? Because if you know something, you'll never ever be a billionaire. So say you don't know, please. I need to teach you that first. I realize that if you know what all this is, you will lose. That's the number one skill trait I just taught you. You must not know, because Socrates says, I know nothing, and you must stay that way. You understand? You must be a student, so be open-minded about this. Realize if you know something, you're always closed-minded. So be open-minded, please. You say, I know nothing. I need you to say, I'm a student now. I'm learning. I'm growing. I realize that many people here will say that you know something. I know something. I know nothing. You understand? Because guess what? I realize many people go and believe they know something about this now because I've been talking already. You know nothing in life. I promise you, it's not a bad mistake. I said. I promise you, it's not a bad. I'm not calling you a mistake. I'm not calling you an accident. I promise you, I'm just saying that you know nothing because you need to be a student to grow. And if you know your numbers, you'll never grow them. You never grow your numbers in the first place. You have to not know your numbers. I don't even know these numbers. I don't know what this is. I don't know what this is. I don't know what I've made over here because I'm still growing. I mean, if you know, I promise you, I don't know anything. I promise you, if you know something about these numbers, you'll never grow them. I'll never grow these numbers if I knew them, because otherwise I'll never grow them. Or else I would know them. Or else it doesn't even make sense. You have to understand that the whole point of me growing these numbers is to not know these numbers. I don't know these numbers because I'm going to grow them. That's the whole key about financial literacy. So when you're going here, I see images saved. So I realize over here, I have a nice, beautiful way to say over here. I have my categories. I have over here, I see images saved uploading. So I never have to upload this many images. I realize that it saves time. I realize that if you have to go uploading 5.2 million images online, I mean, how much time is that in your life? I never have to do that anymore. So I made a goal to do that. I make sure to not do this, although I raise my income level or capital by $5.2 million just by doing this. I realize that's the whole point of that. I realize anytime I may come into a lifetime calculation where I have to upload images, I'll see whether to upload it or not. And if I say no to these images, and if I say no to uploading them online, I calculate my number by 72 because currently my age is 28. So at 29, I'll calculate it by 71 years. And then by 30, I realize that I'll calculate my financial calculator here by 70 years, because in 70 years time from 30, I'll be 100. And that's how I go in my calculations. You understand? Because the goal is to reach 100 years of age. So you have to understand that the whole point is that it's a lifelong journey, and I see how my financial calculator is going right now. And the whole point is that at 100 years of age, I promise you that's my best financial calculations in my life that I'll ever do, and I'll teach you along the way how I do it. I promise you over the next 72 years, I'll teach you my financial calculator, and you understand what I mean by this, you jelly bean. I'm not gay, I'm not straight, I am straight. I promise you now, that's a frenzy of it. I promise you I'm not gay, I'm not straight, I'm straight, I'm only straight, so I'm not bisexual. You understand now, I'll just call you jelly bean. You understand that it's just, I understand something much greater, so I'm just being a smartass. Promise you that's the way. Promise you now, you have to understand that when I go and live my life, you have to understand that you have to go and really, really surprise people. So I just surprised you, and you have to understand that it's really go and be kind. I'm kind, I'm nice, I'm just a straight person, I'm not gay, I'm not straight, and let's move on. Understand that it's really that in this nice, beautiful way, I just spiced everything up. I made sure that you are laughing. I made sure that everything is great. I made sure that you're smiling. And if you judge me, I need you to understand that I am teaching you something. So just be nice and appropriate about everything and be funny about it. And that's it. I realize that when you're going to teach someone something, you have to understand to make a fool of yourself sometimes. I realize now I have new goals over here, which is my fans profile liked. I realize that every time I go on Instagram, I like 100 photos. I like 100 photos per hour. And I calculate that over 72 years. So over 72 years, I will have liked 3.9 million profiles posted in terms of the images inside Instagram. So when you go on social media, I promise you, or social media, for example, I promise you the person will post something and I'll like it. And I'll do that 3.9 million times. I can afford to do that. You understand? I realize that when I do that, I realize that it's time and effort too. So I put time into it. I realize that when I put time into it, I'll make $3.9 million that way. You get it? I realize it's a time investment and it's a money investment too. So that is the whole point of that. And it adds up into my expense column. You're probably wondering why I do everything I do. Although, guess what? I'm just growing in the process. And that's it. And you're not supposed to judge me. And you're supposed to be much more profound. And let's be smarter. Realize the whole point is let's grow. I make a fool out of myself so I can grow. That's how I grow. Alright, now, I need to show you over here. So you understand these numbers now. You understand the fat, you understand fans, profile, likes, and everything up here from that point. And now we're going to go into fat grams. Now, fat grams is anything that I calculate in fat in grams only. So the other one you see is kg. I have kgs over here. I also have fat grams. So in fat grams, I have over here, I have this number. And how many numbers is that? I have 1, I have over here. I have 1, I have 2, I have 3, I have 4, I have over here. I have 6, I have $3 million in just fat grams. You understand? So I made $3 million this way. And I just calculate this way because sometimes I calculate over time and it makes it up to be in grams. And I need you to understand that I'm just always doing something in grams or kgs, or in kgs this way to make some goals so that I can understand a better way. And it's just the same thing as fat kgs. I realize that it's just in grams. I realize that is the whole point of that. And it just makes my goal to set more grams in fat and also more in kgs to make sure that I can have better finances. Whereas now we're rolling on and we have Snapchat points. And now Snapchat points is something else where I post 100 photos into my Snapchat. And now I totally just went out of the blue and I just made it. I just made all this. You can understand that I just went and I said images upload. I said images saved upload. I said fans profile liked. I mean, it's just random headings. I mean, it's random. I mean, it's just random headings. You understand how fun it is? And you will go and you'll see Snapchat points. I post 100 photos a day, and over 72 years is the total number here. I realize that is how I set my goals, and I just made that money. I made that much money in my Snapchat. And now it rolls on. I just have to continue doing that, and I'll achieve my goal. I realize that every single day I post 100 photos into my Snapchat. I promise you, it adds up to $2.6 million at the moment. I promise you that is all it's going to happen. I promise you that's all that's going to happen there because that's my goal, to do that for the next 72 years. And you have to understand that my numbers are going to grow from that point. I've realized from 100, I realized that this number is going to grow. And that's the whole point. I realize that sugar grams is different and it's like fat kgs, although in sugar. And you have to understand that fat grams is also sugar grams, although it's in sugar. And now I saved $1.7 million over here. I realized that anytime I look for an opportunity to stay away from any sugar grams, I put in here. I realized that I still have to do it and I still have to discipline myself more so to do it. I realized that I understand myself over here and I have to do much better anyway. I have to do better with all my numbers. I realize if you have no goals to set this much in sugar grams to save over your lifetime, so you never have to eat white sugar, I realize that it helps you to do so. I realize if you never have goals to go and set a story in your Snapchat and post 100 photos every single day, I realize that you have no goals and you'll never be winning. You'll never be winning if you don't do it. I realize that if you don't have goals to go and upload and save this much images uploaded in terms of life, and if you don't have goals to make sure that you're saving in terms of life all your money in a better way, and also that you see that you can go online and like people's profiles and you don't have a goal about that, I mean, you're losing about that then. Realize that my number's over here. I mean, what is your number? I have 3.9 million in that. You have to understand that here, you have to understand that fat grams over here. Realize if you have no goals to set in terms of fat grams, I mean, what makes you think that you're going to live a longer life? So you have to understand that $3.1 million over here is my total amount of goals for that alone. I realize that's just grams. And what is yours? You understand? Do you see those numbers there? I mean, if my numbers are bigger than yours, you have to step up. Whereas Australian travels is how much over time in Australia I can travel with and live. Or else I can live with this amount. I can live with $1.4 million and travel just Australia in life. I can live with that, and I calculated it, and I just let it be that way, and I made money that way. Whereas now, when I go into GXP overall, I show you over here, and it's just my GXP overall. So I can live on $1.2 million my whole life over the next 73 years and more. I can live on $1.2 million, and I calculated that, and I just let it be that way. And it's just a goal to say how much I can live. I mean, it's just a goal to say how much I can live on, and it shows me much more into how I do my finances. Whereas when I go OPM, I realize that OPM means other people's money. So it shows me that I have to use $1.2 million of other people's money to live my life over the next 72 years and to make 100 years of age. I have to borrow this amount. I have to borrow from other people $1.2 million over 72 years. That's my goal. That's my goal. And that's it. These are my goals. GXP overall is my goal. I realize my goal is to have $1.2 million I realize at some stage of my life. I realize that also, I realize Australian travels over here. I realize that's my goal, to have $1.4 million at some stage of my life in that. Although it all adds up, and the total number is up here, which shows my expense column, and that's my total amount that I've set until 100. I realize that I must have this amount until 100. I realize that anything I add more, I can add more categories into this, and I can find other calculations to add up my numbers. I realize it's funny, although it works. And now, for example, with marketing, I have over here, I have 1 million. I realize I have 1 million over here. I realize I have to go through each one so that you understand. I have marketing over here, which is a nice, beautiful term to say I saved that much in marketing. So I saved that much money in marketing by not marketing some kind of money. And I realized that it's still a goal. And I made decisions here to understand that I can go and put this marketing one into savings, which is SXP. And I just have to elaborate on that one, although it still works. I realized that accommodation over lifetime. So I have over here accommodation over lifetime. I'll show you over here. I'll show you my categories. I have accommodation over lifetime. You can see it right here. And that means how much my accommodation is over my lifetime. And now, what is my lifetime? I mean, it's over 100 years of age. You have to understand. I realize that I can live with accommodation money. I realize I have this much to give around accommodation over my lifetime. I can give 657,000 over the next 72 years easily. And now you have to understand that I say over 72 years, so I'll live over 72 years. I realize I'll live over 72 years more. And for example, that is my goal for that. I realize that it's a nice, beautiful way to say this is how much I must have in my bank account to make sure that I can live in accommodation. And also, for example, GXP overall, I realize that once I achieve $1.2 million over here, I'll say that I can live for the next 72 years because I calculated over here. I realize that once I have $1.2 million in my net worth, you understand that I will see that I can live for the next 72 years. So I'll make more numbers from that. And then, for example, when I realize when I reach $1.4 million in my bank account, I realize that this number here is going to change. And also, you have to understand that it's more that I then will get my nice, beautiful idea, and I'll say, in Australia, I realized when I was in Australia, I calculated this, and now since I have $1.4 million, I realize I can travel Australia now for the rest of my life. I realize I'm safe. I'm safe, and I understand my boundaries. I realize that all of this else is just numbers and goals. I realize that now, when I go into estimations, I realize that I just estimated over here. I estimated something about myself just making some money around here. So anything to do with random calculations and estimations is, I realize it's around here, and that's going to get me $527,000. I realize just because I've done that. You understand? And that's my goals. And now estimations, I realize estimations just stands for estimations, and it's just some calculations I did, and I just randomly just put that nice beautiful calculations all inside of this, and that's that. And I mean in terms of estimations, I realize that everything I do in life is to do better. I realize now FXP, I promise you, FXP is my food experience points. And now food experience points means that when I need food or drink, I put it into FXP. So when I go shopping, I realize when I go shopping daily, I'll go and put everything into food and drink in terms of FXP. So when I go and shop today and I get, for example, I may get $20 worth of food today, and I'll put it into FXP. And slowly this number will grow. I realize although that this number here is over time. I realize that I have been building this number. So I'm building this number over time to make sure that every time I give money for food or something like that, I will give into my FXP over here, and I'll place it into that. I realize although that FXP also goes into GXP. I realize that now part of the money from FXP went into GXP, and I'll show you why. I'll show you that FXP is just the long term. I need this much amount. I need 373,000 to make sure that I can have food for the rest of my life. Just that. That's what my calculation is, and it just sets me straight. So when I have 373,000 in my bank account, I'll understand I have food for the rest of my life. That means I'm achieving my goals, and I'm also making new breakthroughs in my finances. So at the moment, I have all the money. I realize I have all the money because I wrote it down. And that's it. You have to understand that GXP, I'll show you what that is when we get there. I realize that followers, long term, I realize I have this many followers long term. So each and every time I do a calculation based on how many followers I can get over time, I realize I write it here. I realize now $288,000 will come into my account, and also I will understand that each follower is $1, and that way I understand I'm going to make that money. I realize that's that. I realize that LinkedIn profiles, you have to understand, if you're not setting, I promise you, if you're not setting goals to have 288,000 followers in your lifetime, and to understand how much food you're going to escalate with and have in your lifetime in terms of how much money your investments with food and drink is going to be over your lifetime, and also how much your accommodation is over time. And I promise you, if you're not doing that, and if you're not doing the OPM in terms of how much money you have to borrow and how much you can live on, in terms of, you can see my GXP overall. I mean, if you're not doing that either, I promise you that you'll understand that you'll lose. Although you have to understand that my number over here in terms of life, and if you're not doing this, I realize if you're not doing this in terms of the GXP overall, and you don't understand how long you have to live, and you don't plan to live to 100 years of age, and you don't plan to, and you don't plan to see how much money is going to be able to help you to live on it over time, such as I over here. So I have a nice beautiful way to say that you have to understand that over my lifetime, I realize up to 100 years of age, although I live more than that, I live longer than 100 years of age. You have to understand that it's more based on calculations, and you need to also set these goals to see how much you can go and expand your life and see how much you can live on in certain areas in life. So 1.2 million is my basis. I live on $1.2 million. I can live for the next 72 years easily. So you have to go and do that also. I can live more than that. I can live more than what I say in my numbers. I realize that you also have to have goals to go and travel, and you have to understand your numbers there and how much money you can travel in certain areas. So I put Australian travels here. I realize in Australia I can travel with this money over the next 72 years. I realize it's $1.4 million. I can travel with that money over the next 72 years. I realize I can live on it. I realize you have to understand. I realize it's living. I realize it's also got to do with food and drink. I realize it's all in one. So I realize it's accommodation and petrol and transport and food and drink. And I realize everything in terms of Australian travels is in there. I realize it's a total amount. So everything else is included. You understand that food and drink and clothing is all in that $1.4 million and everything. I realize that I just need $1.4 million because I have it now. Although you have to understand that you just need to set goals anyway. You understand? I set goals and then I talk about it and then I achieve it. I realize because I have this number over here, you can see my total amount there. You can see my total amount that I have right now, and that's that. I realize that since I have that number, I move on, and you can see over here. You can see how I go over here. You can see now, since I'm setting these goals, you have to understand that it's more about how those numbers help my life. I realize those numbers help me to see. I realize they help me to see how I live my life. I realize they help me to see and set goals. I realize they help me to see and understand certain parts and equations over time. I realize that's the whole point of those numbers. And now when I do those numbers more and more, I'll always elaborate on it and I'll always show you more. So now when I show you this information without the numbers, you'll understand more about those numbers that I gave you. Probably that's the whole point. I can see over here, for example, that when you go into LinkedIn profiles, I have a goal over time to have liked, to have added this many people. So I have to add 288,000 people inside LinkedIn. I realize that it's 288,000 views. So I go and do that consciously. I have over here LinkedIn views, profiles. I have LinkedIn profiles added. So I go and add people and then I delete them. I just add them and delete them. And when I add them, I promise you they've seen me and that's it. I just delete them then. I realize that once they've seen me, I realize that they'll go show me and I just go delete them from that point because I don't need them. I realize I add people and delete them straight away. And that's the whole point of marketing today. You have to do that. And I do that over time. And since I do that, I just live my life much better. Although I still have to write my nice, beautiful Snapchat ads also. I realize that with that, I do maximum 10 here. I do maximum 10. I just make sure I max it out totally. Although I have to set new goals over here. I can do that now. So what I'll do is I'll make a new category. I'll show you how I do it. I have a new goal. So I have a new goal over here. I have Snapchat. I have Snapchat people. I have Snapchat people added. I also have Facebook people added. I have Facebook people added over here. I have Facebook people added. Realize this is all different. Realize I can go add other people on social media elsewhere and make new goals. Although I'll have to see about that. Realize now, you go over here, I go over here. I now go and I calculate it. I'll show you how I calculate it. I'll calculate over 72 years. I'll go over here. I'll say 10 people because I say 10 people I must add on each account because that's what I do with LinkedIn. And I'll go over here. I say times 365. I say times 72 because it's just calculated for 72 years. Although once I reach I realize once I reach 95, I'll go and plan for different numbers. And it's all different. So you can see 262, 800. And now let's go check over here with the LinkedIn numbers over here. You see the LinkedIn numbers is 262, 800. You see that? Realize that numbers don't lie, and I'm spot on that. You can see that I'm telling the truth. You can understand that I'm honest about my words, and that's a beautiful way to say how numbers don't lie. You see how numbers don't lie into your words? You can see that now, and I promise you that's a beautiful way to say a beautiful representation of how I calculate my numbers and how truthful I am with what I say. You understand? So you can see that. I mean, it just details the numbers there. I promise you, I promise you that the numbers don't add up, I promise you the person's lying. I promise you there's many people today that will say something, and I promise you that the numbers do not add up. You have to understand that it's really, I put over here this number and I put it into my category. I'll go into my category over here, and I say I add Snapchat people over time. Realize it's a new number, so I have to put it in. Realize I have a new number. I have made $262,000 right now, so I still have to go and make more. I have to make more numbers because I realize that I have to catch up to my schedule. So it's really my schedule that I'm really doing, although I have to go and place it into my account over here. I realize that this is also, I add Facebook people. So now, I realize here is another beautiful way I can say this. I realize that now you see that I added notes into that. I realize that you're understanding finance much better. And now it's more, I have Twitter. I can do the same thing on Twitter. I can do the same thing on Instagram. I can do the same thing on TikTok. I although do not follow people on those. I realize it's different. I realize if I did, I would make $700,000 there. I realize although you're saying, Danny, why? I mean, why wouldn't you make $700,000 and follow people on those accounts? I realize that it's more, I make money in other ways. I make money in other ways because I realize when I go on TikTok over here, I realize it's in my other phone. Although, you understand, I'll show you my Instagram, for example. I'll show you my Instagram. I realize it's the same as TikTok and Twitter, although it's different. You have to understand that, for example, you see my followers here. You can see those are my numbers. I realize those are my numbers, and I can write those numbers down into my schedules and finances now. So I realize all my numbers over here. I realize that I have over here 10 posts. I can add 10 posts. I have 10 posts over here, and I have 858 posts. I realize that since I am here, I'll just teach you about this. I can also teach you that. And it's really that with the followers over here, you understand that I have this many followers. Although the nice followers and following and posts is also the same as Twitter and TikTok in the way that they orchestrate it. So you have to understand that I follow only one person inside. I follow only one individual inside Instagram. And that is why I will show you. I'll show you. I follow. I understand it takes a bit of time to load. I follow Jesus daily. I follow Jesus. So I promote Jesus in my Instagram account. And now my Instagram account looks like that, although I understand that you guys may have seen it. And now you have to understand that it's really that you understand that if I go following people on Instagram, you understand that at 40 followers, if I follow 40 people, I realize that Mark Zuckerberg will block me. And will block me for 7 days. I realize he'll block me for 7 days. You have to understand that is the case. And you have to understand that he blocks me because I make posts and because I follow other people engaged. So I just make it be a 1. I make it be a 1 here. Although I can add 5 people and then I can delete 5 people. I can add 5 people and delete 5 people. I promise you I can do that. I promise you that it's also the case. I can do that and it can work out. I promise you it can work out. I may have to do it. I realize that it can work out. I realize the whole point now is that you understand that the whole point of what I need to do is show you this. That since I have over here 858 posts, I have 858 posts times 10. I realize that each post has 10 photos in it. I realize that now I have a number here. I have a number here that I will just go and post into my beautiful, beautiful, beautiful financial calculator. So I'm just doing the finances now. So I make another category. I'll say Instagram images. I'll say Instagram total images. I have total images over here. I'll show you now. I have 858 posts. I'm showing you now how I do my finances. So I have 858 posts with 10. I made $8,500. You watch this. I realize that now it's just going into my nice beautiful bank account, which is my 1.3 billion. I'm making it bigger. I'm making it bigger in other ways. You watch this now. I realize that I just do this. I realize that it's numbers. I realize I'm just adding up my numbers, and that's that. I deserve to make $1 $1.3 billion in my lifetime. Realize now that I will grow that number. I will grow the number. You watch this. I have $8,580. I'll say I added photos. I added photos into Instagram. Realize that's the case because numbers do not lie. I mean, do you understand? I mean, numbers do not lie. I mean, I may have 2 posts from this where I have 9 photos in the actual post, although I made $2 for that. I just made $2 for that because my real goal is that I have 10 posts and that's that. I promise you now that you have to understand that I never lie about my numbers. And now you see my followers list, I can go add that number now. I can say Instagram followers. I promise you that's another number I can add. I promise you now, your income grows over here. I realize that also my financial calculator grows. You watch this. I say 5, 6, 7. I don't know. I cut myself short over here. I'll show you this. I just do this. I now will say I apologize and I just keep going. I apologize. I'll put over here. I have to name it. I'll say Instagram total followers. I'm just getting smarter with you right now as I go and do my finances. So I'm teaching you right now how I do my finances and I'm teaching myself along the way. So that's the whole point. And I have 5, 7, 9. I have more than that. I have 6, I have 7, 6, 9. You see, your numbers will keep you straight, and that's the point. I'm promising now, I never forget anything because everything's written down. And that's the whole point of numbers. You write it down. And you see Instagram wrote my numbers down too. So you have to understand that is something where I just remember my numbers. And that's what you do in your financial calculator. You remember your numbers like that because if you're doing it in your head, you forget them. You get it? You have to go and write this down. I realize now, I'll just say I have in Instagram followers. I have in Instagram followers. I realize that's that, and it's dated. I mean, when you go here, you see all the you see 14th October, you see 14th of October. I mean, it's all dated already, so I don't have to date it anymore. I realize if you set the date of today for when you wrote it, and then you set the date of when you would like to achieve something, I promise you that it works. I realize now I have nice beautiful numbers there. I can add that, although what I can do over here is I can do it now. I can add 10 people. I can do that. I realize that it's much more worthy. I see for now what to do with that. I can understand that it's more. I'll continue over here, and you can see now that in my nice beautiful financial calculator, I'll let it be. I realize I just made 2 goals over here. I just made sure that in Instagram, I will not be following 10 people and deleting 10 people because that one I'll just let it be for now. Although I'll make sure that I go to TikTok. I'll do it in TikTok. I'll go in TikTok. I'll say TikTok added. I'll say TikTok people added. I mean, it's just, it's extra work, although it adds up in numbers. And I'll just go and place this number, which is, let's have a look. I realize that it's 10 people a day. I realize times 365, which is 365 days in a year. I realize times 72. So whatever your number is, you have to calculate it by 100. So whatever your age is today, you may be 30. You calculate it by 70. You understand? So it's over 100. You understand that you have to reach 100. And now, you see that number there? You can say that I just made this much because I'll go adding more people in TikTok, and I'll just follow them. I'll follow 10 people and I'll delete 10 people. I realize now I'll go over here and I just do that just to get some views. I just get some views and that's that. I realize now I do that. I realize now I can say I added via TikTok. I added via TikTok. You have to understand that these numbers here, for example, with TikTok, you see that 260. You see these numbers over here. You see 262,000. You see 262,000. You see 262,000. You see 262,000. I mean, these numbers are views. I get this much views by adding people. Whereas when I add them, whereas they'll see me. Whereas I'll get these numbers. I realize that's why I write it down. So I realize that when these people see me and I have quality content to give them, I promise you they'll promote me. I promise you they'll promote me. So I'm smart about that. And you have to be smart. You have to be smarter. And now I'll also do it for Twitter. I'll go add 10 people because they're going to see my account. I'll go add 10 people. I had Twitter account over here. I could do Instagram too, although I'll just let Instagram be for now. You get what I mean? I'll say Twitter people added. I'll say Twitter people added. I'll go over here and I'll say the same number, which is over here. And now that I realize those numbers are going to stay. I can afford to add 10 people per hour. I realize it's per hour. So you have to understand that I just did a calculation based on 10 a day. I realize that's a calculation based on 10 a day. I realize now it's more that every hour I'll do that. I realize now I have to make more numbers here. So I have to make more numbers. I'll do that. I realize that it's a new number. I just added my numbers and stacked them up. I realize now I'll have to do this. I have to go over here. I'll write 262. I'll write 800. I realize now time management comes into it. So I realize that I was calculating 10 times 365 times 72. I realize that it's 10 a day. I mean, adding 10 a day and not following 10 a day. I realize that now I have also in LinkedIn profile, I have this amount. I'll calculate these ones because I'm doing it in. I'll go and do it together. I have over here. I'll just check my other phone. I do it in. I remember, although I have over here, I have TikTok. I also have LinkedIn. I have 2. I have Twitter. I have 3. I have Facebook. I have 4. I have 4 profiles. I have Snapchat. I have 5. I'll times it by 5. I can do it in Pinterest too. I can do it in Pinterest. I'll go and put Pinterest over here. You'll understand Pinterest is another one where I can do it. I realize now you're just learning nice, beautiful calculations. I'll say Pinterest. I'll say Pinterest people added. I realize now I'll do that. I'll go 262. I'll go and place it. I'll say 262 800. I'll let that be. And I apologize. You're just looking to see how I do it. So you have to understand that this is how I do it. I'll say Pinterest people added. You have to look at my examples so that you can go and do it. Otherwise, the more I show you my examples, otherwise the better you are in your finances. Otherwise that you are now seeing how I do it. So I have 2 categories there. I have over here, I'll go delete one category over here. A little bit for now. I don't know how to do that one. I'll go over here. I have 262 800. I'll go and place it in the top one here. I'll say I added in Pinterest. To show you how I do my nice beautiful financial calculator, I can say over here, for example, is my nice beautiful 2020. I realize that it's my year that I really progressed in my beautiful finances over here, and you're probably wondering, what is all this? I realized that it's all numbers, and you see how I have no income, although I have the expense column, and you have to understand that my expense column is my income. You have to understand it's really that I work only in one, so I never confuse myself. Because if I have the income and expense column going, I realize that what's going to happen is that there's going to be two different numbers for two different spreadsheets, and what I do is I just work with one number and one spreadsheet. So it's much easier to simplify the numbers. I realize it's much easier to simplify the numbers this way. I realize that when I go into my beautiful calculator here, I'll explain what everything is, so they understand exactly how to do your own financial calculator. So first of all, you have to understand that this application over here is called the spending tracker right here. I realize it's in the top right corner. I realize it's this one right here. I click on it, and you have to understand it's not called a spending tracker. You have to understand it's called a financial tracker or a conscious investor and of that nature, because you're not supposed to be spending your money. You're supposed to be investing it. And that guy or woman who made that application, that is beautiful, you understand that it's really that it's a conscious investor, and that you're becoming an investor over time, and you're not spending and you're not wasting your money. So look at finance as an investment and not as spending. You'll now see that, for example, here I have the SXP, and now the SXP is my saved experience points. So I made it up. I totally made it up. And what it stands for is any money I've saved. I mean, how can I say that I saved this money? Well, you have to understand that I really saved it through the decision making. So, for example, if I go from Adelaide to Sydney and I say I won't go, I just saved one-way ticket plane. I just saved the one-way plane ticket to go to Sydney. So I'd write it into my SXP. So I saved $200 one way, or else I saved $200, which is one way into Sydney, for example. I would write into my notes. I realize that for another example is if I go to the shopping store and I say I will not get the electric shaver today, and that's $60. I realize I'll put $60 in here and say that's my I realize that's my saved experience points, and I'll put electric shaver as the note. I just saved $60 on the electric shaver because I never chose to invest in it today. I realize that is what my SXP is called. And now I save this money. You can see it's, I don't know how much that is. I see three numbers, I see six, I see 6 million, I see 16 million, I see over here $1 billion and 16 million. You understand? So I saved all that money. I realized that it's just financial decisions that I made throughout my time. And now what you need to do is you need to level this number. You need to go into your own financial tracker and you need to start making decisions and go save this much money. You then level me in this money, because you have to understand that whatever you're doing today, you have to make decisions and you have to honestly see the numbers. So your numbers are only going to be better than mine if you're better than my number here in SXP. You have to understand now that is your challenge, and you have to go and do that. Realize that is how I can explain finance. And now you can only ever explain finance and time management through a financial calculator. You have to see the numbers in order to help somebody. I realize if you're just talking without the numbers, you never understand. I promise you that the only idea here is that you make sure that you are always on time into where you go, so you can always pause the videos and then go and then continue. You have to understand the whole point of this video is to teach you the finance of this nice beautiful course I have. So in that said, I just taught you how to do the SXP. I promise you it's simple, and I can keep going with ideas. I mean, I never went to give the $100 to a woman because I chose to eat it, and then I just put that in the saved experience points, and then I just kept on making this beautiful, nice, beautiful transitions inside of my decisions that way, and I noted every single one. So what I mean is, I'll show you once I complete this nice, beautiful page. I'll then show you how I put the notes into all of these categories. So for example, if I went to SXP and I said I will not go to the plane and go to Sydney, I'll put I didn't go to Sydney, so I saved this much, and I'll put that as my note inside of that nice beautiful $200 that I place inside the SXP. So you see that. You then see the view counts. You see view counts over here. I promise you, view counts mean that it's an estimation of how much views I will experience over time. And now it's over 72 years. So everything that you see over here is calculated by 72 years. And why is it calculated by 72 years? Because it's not how long I'll live. I realize it's just how long it will take me to get there. So I never steal my time. I get to where I need to go. I just realize that it's just that it will help me to understand that in 72 years time, I will be 100 years of age. And now I reach 100 easily because I'm always planning to reach 100 years of age. So I have to calculate everything by 72. And that's the financial calculation there. And you have to understand that is the wisdom behind that. So how do I get these view counts? I realize that what I do is I may go on social media, and I go on social media and I type in exactly how much views, or I realize on average I get a day, and then I just go and times it by 365 and times 72 years, and then I add it up into these numbers. So that is just an estimation to say how much view counts will I get over time. I mean, it's not how long I live. I live longer than 100, although I'm just planning for 72 years more to live. You have to understand, I'm planning for 72 years more to live because that's my goal, and then I'll set more goals from that point. So when I reach 90, I'll start making different calculations, and I'll make calculations to live another 30 years. So from that point, I will calculate everything by 30. You understand my calculations now? So that's what I do. Although this number represents an average or something of a goal to work towards. I mean, you have to understand that when I work toward this goal over here, which is a number, so you have to understand that my SXP is a number, and that's the goal I work toward right now. And it's inside of my beautiful, beautiful, beautiful financial tracker. So if you're not writing your numbers down and how much you need to make over time and have in your pockets, even today, such as this number over here, I mean, I've got $1 billion over here. I mean, I have to make $1 billion in this lifetime because my financial tracker says so. And that is how I set my goals as well. I realize that now, since you understand my goals, you understand that I am doing this to make $1.3 billion. You understand? So that is the whole point of my life. I realize that in this life, I have over here, I have 3 numbers and I have 6 numbers. I have over here 20 million, I have 320, I have 1.3 million, I have $1.3 billion there. That is my goal that I will achieve in this lifetime because it's in my financial calculator. And I add all the numbers from everything I do over here. I add the numbers and then I get the expense column, and I realize that's my total net worth. I realize that the total net worth in this lifetime, I must make this amount. I must make it because it's easy. I can make it easily. You have to understand, and that's what I do. And now my view counts is just an average number that I work towards. You have to understand that it's just a number, and I will grow this number over time. So what I do is I still go and grow my SXP and I grow my view counts over time. And how do I do that? I realize each and every single day I look for decisions to save SXP points and save experience points, and that's how I named it. And I look to see the view counts. So every once in a while I'll go and see my new view counts inside my Instagram and my new statistics, and I'll go and just times it by over 72 years, and I'll just add it here. I realize that when I add it, I have a new goal. I realize that's it. I promise you, that's what it serves. I promise you, then when I look at the numbers, I realize that I have to understand where my goals are, and that's it. I realize now, when I go to FXP kg, I realize that this means fat experience points and in kgs. So it's really down to kgs in this one in terms of kilograms. I realize that I saved over here, I see 6.5 million, I saved 106 million grams of fat in terms of kilograms of fat So I never have to eat 106 I never have to eat 106 million kilograms of fat in my life. I mean animal fats or plant protein fats. So it's a nice, beautiful way to understand how much I achieved in my goals. Otherwise, I never have to eat it anymore because that's my discipline. So if you reach this number, you'll understand where I am. Realize that if you go and compare my numbers with your numbers, you understand how much more you have to go. Realize that now you can time manage and you can also see the distance of how long more you have to go and, let's say, work to understand your time management and finances and compare the differences with me. You understand? So if your numbers are not looking like mine, you're doing worse. I promise you now that's the goal. And I realize that's a time management and that's a time measurements. So I realize if you don't even start, you'll never ever be at this point. You'll never be at the 1.3 billion. I realize what you have to do is you have to just go and copy me with all these words and all of this. Although you can go and make up your own meanings too, and you can go do your own thing. Although you have to understand that you go and make more than 1.3 billion in this fight. I realize you go make more than 1.3 billion in this nice, beautiful financial calculator, or get your own. You don't have to copy me. You have to understand that you can copy my headings and then go do your own numbers. You can go do your own headings as well. And now that's the whole point of that. Although the number will set you straight. And then once I explain it and you see the number, you understand. I realize that if I explain it and I show you no numbers, you'll never understand it. Although what it's going to do is going to motivate you. Although it's going to motivate you to become something more. And that's it. Although with numbers, I realize when you're teaching with numbers, you teach finance. And you teach really, really, really financial literacy and how people can succeed today without anything to do with the world outside of you. You understand? So this is the only way to become a billionaire today. You have to understand that nobody else is going to teach you these numbers, and nobody else is going to say you must make this much savings and you must do this many view counts, and nobody's going to make goals for you. Realize that nobody's going to make the decision for you to go to Adelaide or to go to Africa. I mean, that's your decision. So you have to understand that is what my financial calculator is about. You have to understand that my financial calculator is about you making sure that you can make your own decisions and also your own financial techniques. And it also helps me to teach you time management, and it helps me to teach you finances, and it helps me to teach you everything. I mean, you may be laughing at my words over here. I mean, you may be laughing at what I wrote here and how my financial calculator looks, although you have to understand that it looks funny. I promise you, it looks so funny. I promise you, although, that it's smart. I promise you it's so smart because everything over here, I promise you, it has information behind it, and it keeps me forward and it gets me into the billionaire mindsets. So you have to understand that I understand that people may say whatever about this, although I don't care about them because I'm making my money worth right now, and I'm making my wisdom, my financial, and also my financial wisdom and everything about me in a better way. Whereas now, since I taught you my goals over here, which are FXP, KG, and I realized it's still my goals, although I calculated 106 million in fat I will save over 72 years. So I still have to achieve it. So that's my goal. Realize that's my goal. Although in 72 years time, and when I turn 100, I achieved these numbers. I achieved all these numbers. I realized that 100 years of age, I have $1.3 million. You understand? I have $1.3 billion at 100 years of age because I've been calculating everything over 72 years. And now if you calculate everything over today, you have to understand that you're already a billionaire. You have to understand you're already a billionaire. Although you need to make it realistic. You need to make your nice, beautiful, you have to make your nice, beautiful puzzles and goals realistic. So 72 years, I realize that. So 72 years of time is a nice, beautiful measurement of me to achieve my goal of 1.3 billion. And you have to understand that the goal behind this is, I realize I'd rather achieve the 100 years of age over the $1.3 billion. I don't care about the $1.3 billion. I care about more than that. I care about 100 years of age, mate. I realize that's what I'm talking about here. I realize I just learned some more numbers here. So you have to understand, I learned more numbers, although you have to understand that when I teach you numbers, I learn more numbers. And that's the way it is. Whatever you teach, you'll learn more of it. You just let it be that way.